He was just walking to work, until the police made him a suspect in his own skin. In this powerful true-to-life narrative, we follow Marcus Lane, a young black man wrongfully stopped and arrested simply for walking through his own neighborhood. No crime committed, no charges filed, just the wrong color in the wrong place. This story isn't just about Marcus. It's about a system that sees color before character, suspicion before innocence. From cold handcuffs to community outrage, from trauma to truth, this story shines a spotlight on racial profiling in America and the quiet strength it takes to keep walking. Because walking while black? Apparently, that's still a crime. You ever been accused of something just because of how you look? Not for what you did, but for simply existing in a space someone else thought you didn't belong in? That's how it started for Marcus Lane. On a Tuesday morning, walking down Parkwood Avenue like he had 100 times before. Except this time, the world decided he was guilty of something. He just didn't know it yet, but he'd learn soon enough. Marcus Lane was 26, clean-cut, freshly lined up at his cousin Deshawn's barbershop on 145th, and wearing his favorite gray hoodie and joggers. A man of routine. Marcus walked every morning to the bus stop a few blocks from his apartment in Crestview, the kind of neighborhood that smiled at you on brochures but frowned when you stayed too long on its sidewalks while black. He wasn't doing anything special, just walking, headphones in, phone in his pocket, music low enough to hear cars behind him. He had places to go, work at the downtown library where he handled archiving and digital records. He was a quiet man, always had been, raised by a single mother who preached the gospel of staying out of trouble like it was scripture. Keep your head down, be polite, don't give them a reason. Marcus lived by those rules. Until the rules didn't matter. He was halfway down Parkwood Avenue when the first patrol car slowed beside him. Didn't say anything at first. Just rolled along silently, matching his pace like a shadow with sirens. Marcus glanced sideways. 2 officers. One white, driving. The other black, in the passenger seat, flipping through a tablet. He kept walking. Then came the voice. "Hey, you! Stop right there." Marcus hesitated. Pulled his earbuds out, turned slowly. "Problem, officer?" he asked, calm like his mother taught him. "You fit a description," the white officer said. "Description of what?" The officer got out of the car. "We'll ask the questions." Marcus held up his hands, not in fear, just showing he had nothing in them. "I'm on my way to work," he said. "I got my ID if you need it." But that didn't stop the questions. "Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Why are you walking this way? Why this street? What's in your pockets?" The black officer still hadn't said a word. He just watched. They told Marcus to sit on the curb. He asked why. They told him again he fit the description. Young black male, hoodie, gray sweatpants. That could be anybody, Marcus thought. That was everybody in this part town. They ran his ID. Clean. Still, they patted him down. Went through his bag. Checked his wallet. Called in backup. Neighbors came out, some recording. A woman across the street whispered, "Ain't that Miss Lane's boy?" Another said, "He work at the library." Quiet one. Didn't matter. What mattered was how Marcus looked, not who he was. What mattered was the hoodie and the color of his skin. As he sat on the cold curb, hands on his knees, Marcus remembered all the other stories he'd grown up hearing. Stories about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Except for black folks, any place could be the wrong one. He thought of Trayvon, Sandra, Eric, Elijah. He thought of how walking, driving, breathing could all be considered threats if done while black. He thought of his mother, who always told him to keep his ID on him at all times. He thought of the book he was cataloging yesterday, The New Jim Crow, and how none of this was new. When a third cop car pulled up, Marcus felt his stomach turn. One of the new officers didn't even ask questions, just said, "We need to take you in." "For what?" Marcus asked. They couldn't answer. Not directly. They mumbled about a robbery 2 streets over, about witness statements, about checking surveillance. But what Marcus heard was something deeper, something unspoken, the truth behind the badge. You look like someone who'd do it, and that's enough. He was cuffed on the sidewalk in front of his own neighborhood. placed in the back of the cruiser, like a criminal. His rights weren't read. His dignity wasn't spared. The ride to the station was silent. Marcus sat in the back of the cruiser, hands cupped behind his back, his hoodie bunched up at the neck, sweat trickling down his spine. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Probably a text from his supervisor wondering where he was. He'd never been arrested before. Never been in trouble. Not even a parking ticket. But here he was, his reflection staring back at him in the cage window, like a stranger caught in someone else's nightmare. At the station, they took his shoelaces, his belt, his fingerprints, his photo. No one told him what he was being charged with. "You'll sit tight until we verify a few things," said one officer, eyes dull with routine. Marcus asked for a phone call. They told him to wait. He sat in a concrete holding cell, empty except for a rusted bench and the stink of too many nights like this. On the wall behind him, someone had scratched, "Still here," into the cement. Time passed. Hours, maybe. No clock. No answers. Just the echo of keys, doors, and lives falling through the cracks. Eventually, 2 detectives walked in. One white, one Latino. Civil but not warm. They slid into the room like they had already decided who he was. Marcus Lane. Lives on Crestview. Works at the downtown library. Got yourself in a bit of a situation. "I haven't done anything," Marcus said, eyes steady. "Well, someone says otherwise." They showed him a blurry image on a screen. A black male in a hoodie running from a liquor store 2 blocks from Parkwood. It could have been anyone. "This is the best your cameras can do?" Marcus asked. "That ain't me." "You sure?" "Positive. Check the time. I was walking. I wasn't anywhere near that store." They asked more questions. Pressed harder. Tried to catch him slipping. Marcus kept his answers clear, calm, direct. He thought being polite would help. It didn't. Back in Crestview, word spread fast. Miss Janice, who saw the whole thing from her porch, had already posted the video on Facebook. Marcus Lane arrested for walking. The caption read, "He wasn't the suspect. He was just black." The post gained traction. Deshaun, Marcus's cousin and barber, hit every phone contact he had. "They got Marcus," he told folks. "They snatched him like he don't belong." At the library, co-workers were stunned. "Marcus," his boss said, "he's never even late." By evening, a small group of neighbors stood in front of the precinct with cardboard signs that "Walking while black is not probable cause. Free Marcus Lane." Who's next? It wasn't a protest yet, but it was pressure. Inside the station, Marcus didn't know any of this was happening. When they finally gave Marcus his phone call, he didn't call a lawyer. He called his mother. She answered on the second ring. "Mama, it's me." She was silent for a moment. Then, "What's wrong, baby?" "They arrested me. Said I look like someone." "Where are you?" "The station downtown." "I'll be there." Click. 20 minutes later, Lorraine Lane walked into the precinct like a storm in Sunday shoes. She was not loud. She was not rude, but her presence shifted the room. A teacher for over 30 years, she knew how to command a space. "My son is here. I need to speak to whoever's in charge." They tried to brush her off. She didn't budge. She didn't raise her voice. But when she said, "My son works full-time, pays taxes, volunteers at the literacy center. If you think he's just another face you can lock up without cause, you picked the wrong family." The room paused. Hours after his arrest, after community calls and social media heat, after a review of surveillance footage and Marcus's GPS timestamps confirmed he hadn't been near the crime scene, they let him go. No apology, no explanation. Just handed him back his things, his wallet, his phone, his pride still dented. Marcus walked out into the sunlight to find his mother waiting, arms crossed. Behind her, Deshaun. A few neighbors. A reporter from the local paper. Marcus blinked at the crowd. "What is all this?" "They showed up for you," his mom said, voice soft, "because this ain't just about you." He nodded, slow, the weight of the moment sinking in. His heart thumped with a question that had no answer. What if no one had been there to see? Back home, Marcus barely spoke for days. He returned to work, but something in him had changed. He walked a little faster, kept his head lower, wore dress shirts instead of hoodies, even on his off days. But the silence inside him grew. So he did what he always did when life felt too heavy. He wrote. He wrote everything down. The walk, the stop, the cold bench, the face of the officer who didn't speak, the silence of a system built to confuse and crush. He posted online under the title, Walking While Black. Apparently that's a crime now. It spread like fire. Thousands read it, shared it, commented, "This happened to me too." Same thing, different city. Stay strong, brother. Weeks later, Marcus stood at a community forum, invited by a local councilwoman who read his story. He didn't want to speak, not really, but something inside him, the part his mother had raised, the part that knew silence was complicity, spoke anyway. "I wasn't beaten. I wasn't shot. I got lucky," he said into the mic, "but the worst part wasn't the cuffs. It was being treated like I didn't belong, like I was dangerous for simply walking." He looked out at the crowd. This isn't about one cop or one mistake. It's about a system that sees color before it sees character. It's about walking while black, and how that's somehow still a threat in 2025. People clapped. Some stood. But Marcus didn't feel pride. He felt purpose. What happened to Marcus wasn't new. It was part of a long history of assumptions turned into accusations, of melanin mistaken for menace. But his story was different in one way. It was witnessed, recorded, amplified. He was believed, and that made him dangerous, not to the community, but to the silence. So he kept writing, kept speaking, kept walking, even when his steps felt heavy. Because sometimes the most powerful act of resistance is to simply exist without apology. To those who've ever been stopped, searched, or suspected simply for being who you are, this story is for you. Marcus Lane walked that day so others could run toward justice. And until the world learns to see humanity before Hugh, we'll keep walking. And we won't walk alone. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We tell the stories the world needs to hear, raw, real, and unfiltered. Your support gives voice to those who've been silenced. New stories every day. Don't miss what they won't teach you in school.